You're listening to The Film File right here on No Barriers Radio, the film show for film geeks by film geeks. And welcome to The Film File. We record this on the last day of November. You'll be listening to this in December. It's like time travel. Oh, you are Andy Meakin, by the way.
I am Andy Meakin, and you're Lee Ford.
Yes. And let's start with what we asked last week.
We were talking about posters after Drew Struzan's sad passing away last month. We asked, what are some of your all-time favourite movie posters?
How did we do? What did we get?
We'll start over at Facebook. Elliot Lacey puts the classic Pulp Fiction poster, Uma Thurman, very pulp novelish.
Yeah.
Lying down,
poster.
cigarette
Iconic.
in hand. Yeah. Pride and place in my hallway for the last decade, he says. Stephen Blaine Young posted 3 different posters from the Dark Crystal series. As he says, 3 of my faves from the same franchise. Yes, I'm obsessed. Helen Blair said she didn't or doesn't have film posters on her wall, but she remembers loving the John Carter print when the film came out. She also loves the one for Labyrinth.
Oh, yes.
Owen Cooper says, in recent years, I think Challengers has had one of the best posters.
Oh, I don't remember that one.
Blade Runner's Final Cut poster is my favourite of the bunch.
That was
He's
on
a big
my
fan
wall.
of Clockwork Oranges.
Yeah, some great ones for that.
RoboCop and Cobra have some of the best 80s action posters, alongside Big Trouble in Little China and Conan. And Lindsay Story loves all the 80s painted posters like Star Wars, Indiana Jones, etc., like most people, but also loves the classics like Sunset Boulevard.
Yes.
The Shining is a good one with the weird little face that she has no idea what it has to do with the film. Over on Mastodon, John, a film nerd, said almost anything by the late Drew Struzan was a classic. Personal favourite is Back to the Future. And at the other end of the spectrum, we went through that era where all posters seem to be comprised of the floating head syndrome. Terrible stuff. Javi Dog over on Threads, and this was one that I was going to put on my list because whilst the film itself wasn't great, that first poster for Star Wars Episode 1, before they called it Phantom Menace, Anakin with the shadow of Vader.
Yeah, that was a great poster. That got everybody excited.
Andy and Artie, Fright Night. Cindy Schneider said, I was born for this thread. I collect movie posters, and here's some of my faves. I have literally hundreds, but these are some of my personal favourites. So Tender Mercies.
Yes, remember that one.
Le Fraise's Sauvage, the Ingmar Bergman film. Paris, Texas. In the Mood for Love. He's posted the French release poster for Rushmore. Veluto Blue, which is Blue Velvet, the French release. He really likes his French release posters because the French designs are unique and different to what you get elsewhere. Conan the Barbarian, Gark the Grey, very rare cinematic occurrence. Posters for Star Wars Episode 6 had been distributed and marqueed, and then George realises a Jedi won't seek revenge.
That's
he changed
right.
it to return. Instant collector's item. Alas, he says, he had to sell his to help pay for the honeymoon.
Oh, bless you, sir.
I mean, it made titling Episode 3 a no-brainer, as he points out. Druid Cats UK said The Descent is amazing. A skull made up of bodies.
Yes.
And over on Blue Sky, The Naked Airplane, Kenneth Blair, said, my wall is currently bare, although I should put some of these back up. But I have had in the past these on my wall, amongst others, and that is The Shining,
Yep.
The Schwarzenegger, The Terminator, Naked Gun 2.5, and Scarface's poster with the Say Hello to My Little Friend as he's firing his machine gun.
Thank you so much. You've got me and Andy ticking, and probably as soon as this is done, we'll be going to some rare poster movie sites and ordering something for our Christmas box. This leads into our new challenge of the week, which is, what is the most recognizable and favorite TV theme? You hear that piece of music, it instantly takes you back to a TV show that you've loved. And to let us know your response, all you have to do is this.
Answer the question.
Head on over to social media channels, search for Film File UK, follow us on there. I'll post out the question during the week. Gives you a few days to get your answer back to us for inclusion on the show. Or you can email us directly the answer, podcast@filmfile.uk. Or if you're on Spotify, there's a comments box below the show. Pop your answer in there.
That's for next week, but what about this week? Okay, let's talk about reviews of, Andy.
On its limited cinema release at the cinema for this 1 week only, Wake Up Dead Man and Knives Out Story. I also checked out Pillion.
Looking forward to that.
And if we have time, I'll throw in a review as well of a film that landed on streaming last week, She Rides Shotgun.
We have a deep dive this week of, well, I think it's a classic, and hopefully you do too. We'll be talking about Unbreakable starring Bruce Willis. Before that, though, We have some box office, we got some news, and it's right here for you. So with the box office, let me guess, Zootopia or Zootropolis, depending on which country you live in. The sequel to, well, is it about 9 years ago since the original came out, I think.
Yeah.
It falls into our kind of legacy sequel. I believe it's done very well.
That's a bit of an understatement. It's done phenomenally well. Top of the US box office is Zootopia 2, taking 96.8 million this weekend. Add on a couple of days of previews, and that means it's opened to 156 million. In second place, Wicked for Good, holding over well, taking another 62.8 million this weekend. Now You See Me, Now You Don't in third place with 7 million. Predator Badlands getting 4.8 million for fourth, and Running Man struggling into fifth place with 3.7 million. Here in the UK, Wicked for Good still retained the top spot for the second week, 7.7 million it's added to its total. Zootropolis 2 opened in second place with 5.98 million. Now You See Me, Now You Don't in third place with 605,000. Westlife Royal Albert Hall concert, 527,000 for fourth. And Pillion in fifth place with 348,000. So, as it got closer to the weekend, the 5-day forecast for this film for the US side kept getting lifted and raised and lifted away, raised. And then after this Friday opening, it had done 2 days of previews beforehand. They surged it up to potentially getting to 160 million. But the big news on Zootopia is that in China on Saturday, it took $104 million.
Wow.
Which is a new record for a US distributed film in the Chinese market for its 1 day figure. This film's got to pass $1 billion in no time. At this rate, this is a fantastic result and shows once again that sometimes tapping in to those older films and bringing a sequel long overdue does work. It's again, like we said earlier, is there'll be in a market who watched this when it watched the first film when it came out, who are now slightly older, and it may be bringing either their own kids or their younger brother and sister to come and see their Zootopia on the big screen for the first time. We had it earlier this year with Moana. Moana did exactly the same. It had been so many years since Moana. Moana 2 blew the box office apart.
I mean, you and I are not likely to get to see it. I'll probably wait till streaming. I saw the original on streaming. But I think it's been kept alive, though, because there's been the odd TV offshoot that Disney's had.
Yeah.
So it's not been out of the public consciousness. But I think I'm as surprised as everybody else is that this is the one. This is the film that's landed, that's taken the cinema by storm. So all those who were thinking Disney's dead, well, I think you might have to reconsider.
I mean, it's been quite a hectic weekend at work as a result of this, because Wicked has still been doing fantastic. Knives Out has been doing great for us. In fact, everything across all of our screens has been doing wonderful. We are loving this in the cinema industry because this is two major films and some smaller releases that give you enough content to bring the audiences in. The disappointment is with Knives Out.
Okay.
And it's not that it's not doing well, because on a screen-by-screen basis, it's doing great. But in the US, it only got released on 600 cinemas across the whole of the nation.
Right.
And so it's stymied. And this is what Ryan Johnson was booking against and moaning that Netflix aren't giving it a proper distribution. Because Netflix don't want it to do lots of money at the box office, because if people have watched it at the cinema, they're unlikely to sign up for Netflix to go and watch it. So they've deliberately withheld the release, and it's only for this 1 week as well. So all potential that this could have made at the box office is thrown away because it's all about the streaming model with Netflix. That's my only concern going forwards with our next piece of news, which is to do with the Warner Brothers buyout.
Yeah, we're going to talk, I'm assuming that Netflix have put a bid in, but they've also been quite clear that they are not going to let Warner's movies not end up in the cinemas and not go straight to streaming.
Last Thursday was the deadline for the bids. And apparently Paramount, Skydance, Netflix and Comcast were all reported to have submitted bids before the date. But none of the bids appear to have pleased Warner's. And so a second round of bidding is now in the works, with those bids due in this coming Monday. So by next week, we might have some more clarification on to whether someone's going to buy it out. Yes, Netflix have said that they will treat it as a separate studio and Warner's films will still go to the big screen. But Amazon said exactly the same thing when they bought MGM. You might remember that. And then you might remember the controversy when a certain film that deserved the big screen was dumped unceremoniously onto their service, the Roadhouse remake.
Interestingly enough, though, aren't Netflix, if they do win it, are going to be in competition with themselves for HBO?
I'd imagine at some point you'd see a folding in of the services. More news on the Warner Brothers buyout. The buyout is clearly going to take place at some point. It's just who's going to get it.
Fingers crossed it's not Paramount.
I've got my reservations on Netflix, but yeah, I think they're the lesser of the three evils there.
Yeah. Okay, so in other news, and there's been quite a lot of news this week, Scarlett Johansson is set to appear in Mike Flanagan's new Exorcist movie. We don't know much about it, but we are excited because, firstly, it's Mike Flanagan, and secondly, it has to be so much better than the last Exorcist film, which is so forgettable.
It didn't do much at the box office.
No.
It put a stop to that proposed trilogy.
Good.
Flanagan, I've got more confidence in. He knows his horror.
Yes.
Shall we talk about the potential for another Rush Hour film?
I think we ought to, because I'm hopeful that this is the last time we ever talk about it. So it's been all over the press, not just on the movie press or on any geek sites. Rush Hour 4 is officially in the works over at Paramount after Donald Trump intervened with saying that Rush Hour was one of the best films of its generation. So the 80s, what came out in the 80s, 90s, is Rush Hour the best of the best? Well, one of his other favorite films was Bloodsport.
Yeah, this is the guy who you people in America elected to be president. He thinks that Rush Hour and Bloodsport are two of the best films of the 80s and 90s. Ladies and gentlemen, I rest my case. Revival for Rush Hour has been rumoured over the past couple of years. So it was eventually going to happen, but it's now been fast-tracked. And the most bizarre news within this is that Brett Ratner, who was behind the previous films, in 2017, there was allegations of sexual misconduct and harassment, and he was more or less blacklisted from the industry. He's a problematic director. But of course, he's working on a $40 million documentary about Melania Trump for Prime Video, which Melania Trump is also set up her own production company at the same time, which is going to be attached to it. So it's just going to be a fluff piece about Melania Trump and how great she is. She isn't. She's horrible. But Brett Ratner is going to be making this fourth film, because once the president's got your back, it makes no difference how problematic you are. You can do what you want. It's alleged that Trump hopes to bring Ratner and Paramount's Larry Ellison, also one of Trump's biggest financial supporters, funnily enough, together, as Paramount is in the mix to take control of Warner Bros. Discovery. The original films, as we know, starred Jackie Chan. And we were having a discussion off air before this, and you said that you can't see Jackie Chan returning if it's got Trump involved. And I said, I don't know. Have you researched Jackie Chan in recent years?
Which I said I hadn't, and we turned out that Jackie Chan has been problematic. But
He's
I also,
problematic.
to quantify that, I think he's too old. I mean,
It's not stopped in churning out garbage action films for Sky Originals. Over
Oh,
the past
really?
few years.
They must have passed me by. And then there's his co-star, who I don't know if he's a registered Republican. I do know that he's not had much of a career. We're talking about Chris Tucker. Brett Ratner's a terrible director. He is not good. He destroyed the X-Men franchise. His Red Dragon, the entry into the Hannibal Lecter movies, was poor, very poor. He's just a by-the-numbers director. Perfect for this, because this will be a by-the-numbers film. Interestingly enough, though,
it will be a farcical debacle.
A farcical
That's what
debacle,
it'll be.
which is also, I'm sure, is a song from some sort of 1960s musical, probably starring Tommy Steele.
I mean, I rewatched Rush Hour a couple of years ago, thinking like, oh, I remember loving these films. I'm going to rewatch all three. And I finished watching the first one and went, I'm not watching it anymore after that. This has not stood up well. Full of everything that was wrong with 90s cinema. Yeah. It's not good.
Not great. Will the MAGA crowd go and see it?
All five of them now. Yeah, I think they will.
But certainly, as a bit of a dirty protest, I can't see the other side of political spectrum being drawn into it. And also there's brand recognition. Does anyone really care about Rush Hour? Wasn't there a TV show as well at one point?
Yes. I can't remember who was in it.
Yeah, but again, probably forgettable. In better news, let's talk about Thomas Crown, which we know is in production right now. Michael B. Jordan starring in the reboot of the remake of the classic original. The cast list is growing. Joining Michael B. Jordan is, Andy?
The latest additions to the cast are Ruth Negga, Aubrey Plaza, and Papa Residue. They're joining Kenneth Branagh, Adria Arjona, Lily Gladstone, Danai Gurira, Pilo Asbake, and Aisha Hart in this film, which Jordan is directing, producing, and co-writing. We covered the Thomas Crown affair the original as a deep dive way back, and we touched on like the 1999 version, which had Pierce Brosnan. And at the time when we did that deep dive, we suggested that maybe it's time for another take on the Thomas Crown affair, because the simple concept of it, the heist aspect, can be brought into any environment.
Yeah, Michael B. Jordan has said that it was the 1999 John McTiernan remake that starred Pierce Brosnan and Rene Russo was the much bigger influence for him than the original Norman Jewison directed film. We're expecting that to happen March 5th of 2027.
Things don't look good, however, for the Tom Holland-led biopic about Fred Astaire that we reported on earlier this year.
I forgot that even was a thing.
It's hit a bump in the road. I say bump, it's hit a hill.
Small mountain.
To climb, because a legal letter has landed on their desk from Fred Astaire's widow, Robin Astaire, that was sent to producer Amy Pascal. And in the letter, it was pointed out by Robin that she hasn't authorised or granted permission for any portrayal of Fred in this biopic or any other film. And her late husband, in her words, was explicit in his will that he did not want his life story to be depicted on screen. And she fully respects and upholds those wishes. Basically, as Robin herself has put in the letter, they should be very careful about misrepresenting her involvement.
Yeah.
This is a major block, because whilst someone's wishes in their will doesn't have to be taken as legal thing, it was a public figure. You can make any films about public figures, but anyone who doesn't want to be involved in that, who's still alive, can raise a concern over any depiction.
Yeah. Over in TV land, you've been a big fan of it. I thought it was okay. It didn't quite land for me, but Wednesday, season 3, has now added a former Tim Burton alumni, Eva Green. She was in Dark Shadows, by the way, has been cast as Aunt Ophelia. Always got time for Eva Green. I think she's a great screen presence, but I think she's highly underused.
The character was seen from behind in the second season, imprisoned in a cell with the words "Wednesday must die" written on the wall. Series showrunners Al Gough and Miles Miller said in a statement, Eva Green has always brought an exhilarating, singular presence to the screen, elegant, haunting, and beautifully unpredictable. I mean, I think that sums her up perfectly. These qualities make her the perfect choice for Aunt Ophelia. We're excited to see how she transforms the role and expands Wednesday's world. In other TV news, Apple TV have given the green light to a prequel series for Monarch Legacy of Monsters,
which we enjoyed.
This new prequel will be set during the Cold War and will grapple with tensions between the United States and Russia in this world of monsters, which gives an opportunity for Wyatt Russell, who played the younger Lee Shaw character in the first season of Monarch, to reprise his role to tell this backstory. Let's throw out some little bit of quick news nuggets. First one that I've got is Star Wars Starfighter. Composer Thomas Newman, who penned the scores for Shawshank Redemption, American Beauty, Finding Nemo, beautiful scores, has been announced as the person who's going to be doing this new Sean Levy-directed Star Wars film. I'd never peg Thomas Newman as being like a Star Warsy kind of like space fantasy kind of composer.
He did well on the James Bond film, the last James Bond film.
Yeah, I think it's different waters for him to play in, but he's a good composer, and I'm interested to see what themes he brings into the whole mix.
Callum Turner keeps racing up the charts in the Bond rumour. We mentioned it the other week. It seems to be that he is at the moment, at least the book is favourite, so fingers crossed. If you are in the Callum Turner camp, that he is your next 007. And of course, you can guess all you like because it doesn't matter. They will have found their Bond. They're just not telling us yet.
Michael B. Jordan and Juno Temple are set to star in the Netflix and Skydance animated movie Swapped from Tangled director Nathan Greno. This is a buddy comedy that follows a small woodland creature voiced by Jordan, and a majestic bird voiced by Temple, natural sworn enemies of the valley who suddenly swap bodies and must team up. Oh, that old chestnut. To survive the wildest adventures of their lives. Seems coincidental that Netflix have just greenlit something to do with animals being voiced by people and swapping around at the same time that Hopper's trailer has been doing the rounds at cinemas.
We were a big fan of Alien Earth, but it seems that creator Noah Hawley has another project ready to go over at FX, and that is a TV version of the Far Cry video game series.
Daisy Ridley is going to team with Taken director Pierre Morel for his new action thriller, The Good Samaritan, which starts shooting this coming spring. Ridley will play an entrepreneur who, along with her husband, rescues a wounded man that they find drifting off the coast of Indonesia. Within hours, their yacht vanishes, Matt's abducted, and they find themselves hunted by pirates and imprisoned by corrupt officials. Oh, that old chestnut.
I think I've seen your new T-shirt design.
And Focus Features and Universal Pictures have announced September the 11th, 2026 release date in the US and September the 25th, 2026 in the UK for the newer adaptation of Jane Austen's Sense and Sensibility, which stars Daisy Edgar-Jones, Esme Creed-Miles, George Mackay, Catriona Balfe, Fiona Shaw, Frank Delane, Herbert Nordrum, and Bodhi Ray Brethnach. This is a fresh take on the story of the Dashwood sisters and their mother, who are forced to move out their family estate following the death of their father. And last bit of quick news, Ted Lasso's breakout star, Brett Goldstein, has also now set up a romantic comedy series called Escorted for Amazon Prime Video with an 8-episode order. Goldstein will play a divorced dad in Manhattan who accidentally becomes a male escort. That old chestnut. The series deals with second chances, co-parenting, and whether real intimacy can ever really be bought. A couple of trailers caught my eye this week. Only 2 trailers that I want to bring. The first is for a TV series that is coming back. Scrubs had its first tease trailer with all the gang walking down the corridor. Straight away fell back in love with all of those characters as they haven't grown up at all. It's out there. Go and check out the trailer. It made me smile. But other trailer that landed this week, Hunger Games, Sunrise on the Reaping. The tease trailer is always for the fans of the book. The next trailer will then entice the rest of the audience, but it's more of the same. It's delivering that same dystopian society, but it's a flashback story to an earlier games, a very important games, as fans of the book series already know. Can't wait. Next Christmas is all about Hunger Games for me.
I caught a couple. I saw the new Project Hail Mary trailer, which looks great. Can't wait for that one. I know it's been out a week or so, but I saw the Mandalorian and Grogu trailer. It just felt like an overextension of the TV show. In fact, it looked very TV show-y.
I'm not convinced on it.
No, I'm not. I think it feels so much like a TV episode. Even though I've got no interest in the film, I thought the Michael trailer looked really good. It was very, very impressive. I'm not sold on the movie, but I thought the trailer was good. Let's cast your mind back to Hunger Games, because it's rant time.
So this week, you can't have missed it, because it's been all over every bit of press, how Tarantino, on the Bret Easton Ellis podcast, he ripped in to the Hunger Games, calling it a rip-off of the legendary 2000 Japanese cult film Battle Royale. I mean, this is hardly new criticism levied at the film, because even you're not a big Hunger Games fan, so on the surface level, it seems like the same film. And even before I became a bit more immersed in it, after the first film came out, I wasn't that enamored with it, and I just referred to it as Battle Royale with cheese.
Another T-shirt design.
Tarantino got quite vocal in how the book series from Suzanne Collins ripped off Battle Royale, saying, I do not understand how the Japanese writer didn't sue Suzanne Collins for every effing thing she owns. They just ripped off the effing book. Stupid book critics are not going to watch a Japanese movie called Battle Royale, so the stupid book critics never called her on it. They talked about how it was the most original effing thing they had ever read. As soon as the film critics saw the film, they said, what's the F? This is just Battle Royale, except PG. Tarantino's got a bit of a nerve here, hasn't he? I mean, how many films has he directly ripped off? I mean, homaged in his output. His totally fresh and unique Reservoir Dogs debut was, in his own admission, after someone had noticed, a rehash of City on Fire. And it's worth noting that the only similarities between Battle Royale and Hunger Games is kids fighting on an island. There's a whole political angle and dystopian future society aspect around the districts that is being conveniently forgotten by Tarantino. Battle Royale is straight to the island, and that's it. It's a pure focus of humanity in that situation. Which, let's be honest, when Battle Royale came out, my first response was, this is Lord of the Flies with guns and knives. In Hunger Games, the game itself is a backdrop for the actual story going on. And who is Tarantino to say book critics never watch films? And plus, how original was Battle Royale? It's interesting that he only refers to the film and seems to not acknowledge the book origins of that story. Does he not, in his argument, feel that book critics would have read the book? But as an original, come on, Kushin Takami wasn't the first to propose a dystopian future where a lottery system sets up competitors who must enter a tournament where only one will survive.
I'm not a fan of the Hunger Games at all. And the first thing I thought of when it came out was that it was not a rip-off. It's too different, but the premise is very much the same. It's an interesting one. Quentin Tarantino just rants these days about anything. Given the opportunity, he rants. I've listened to a podcast that he does, and he talks about films that I love, but he rants sometimes against them and hates them for reasons I cannot figure out. I just think that's part of the Tarantino brand, and especially with that sort of movie. I just take it not with a pinch of salt, but
I take it that he's never watched Hunger Games or read Hunger Games.
I
think
probably
he
not.
rants about things that he's not actually knowledgeable about. He's knowledgeable about 70s cinema. He could tell you everything about 70s cinema. He's probably watched everything that came out in the 70s. But I'm convinced that he's not watched anything except his own films in the past 20 years. So, yeah, Hunger Games seems to have some similarities to Battle Royale. But if the maker of Battle Royale is going to sue Suzanne Collins, then Stephen King should sue the makers of Battle Royale, because there's been 2 films adapted from his earlier Bachman books works this year that both have the similar concepts, The Long Walk and The Running Man. There's nothing original in this story. It's been done before. This is an old idea, just replayed in different ways. It seems to me that Tarantino just simply hasn't watched a lot of things and is just old man yelling at the sky.
That, folks, that's the news. You're listening to No Barriers Radio, and you're listening to The Film File, the film show for film geeks by film geeks. And if you're enjoying the show, then check out the Film File podcast, which you can find quite easily by heading over to your favorite podcast platform, searching for The Film File, hitting that subscription button, and leaving a like. More to come on No Barriers Radio, and more to come on The Film File. And you can get in touch with us right here at Film File HQ by simply
heading over to social media platforms, search for Film File UK. You can get in touch with us through there. You can email us, podcast@filmfile.uk. Get in touch with us with any thoughts on films, any films that you want us to deep dive at some point, any films that you disagree with our opinions on. Feel free. We're always open to listen to other sides of the story.
And now it's time for this week's deep dive. Dive. We're going back to the year 2000. We're going to talk about M. Night Shyamalan's Unbreakable, which starred Bruce Willis, Samuel L. Jackson, and Robin Wright, and is a film that made me cry when I watched it. Hit me incredibly, incredibly hard for reasons that I may even disclose as we go through.
Why are you looking at me like that?
1, because it seems you are the only survivor of this train wreck. And 2, you don't have a scratch on you.
I've come to believe a rather unbelievable possibility. I hope you can keep an open mind. Unbreakable.
It is basically a superhero origin movie. Bruce Willis, who is on fine form, having worked with M. Night Shyamalan again after, of course, the iconic Sixth Sense, plays David Dunn, an everyday guy who survives a train crash with absolutely no injuries, leading to the realization that he has superhuman abilities and starts to come to terms with the fact that he's some kind of a superhero savior. He comes to the attention of a disabled comic book store owner, Elijah Price, played with much relish by Samuel L. Jackson, who tries to understand David and in doing so begins to manipulate him. The film was a moderate success, should have had a direct sequel, but didn't. And we had to wait some time before Shyamalan created a 3-part story structure that sets up the character of David Dunn and his final outcome. I love this film. This is my favorite film by M. Night Shyamalan. At its heart, it's a comic book movie with even references to a costume of sorts. It has a supervillain. It has a very Marvel-esque hero, but there's also a sense of reality, because everything in this film is incredibly underplayed. And that, when Shyamalan was at his height, was his superpower.
After Sixth Sense had marked Shyamalan as one to watch, all eyes were going to be on this film to see if he was just a one-hit wonder. And this was a time when comic book movies were only just starting to come into their own, with the X-Men series and the Blade series hitting the screen. So to do a grounded take on the genre could be seen as quite risky, especially when not using any established characters. But it was definitely the casting of Bruce Willis and Sam Jackson that made sure that the public could be drawn in. Both of them were at career highs at this point in time. Both of them were names that you gravitated towards. Rewatching this for the first time in ages this week, after the splash card told you of the stats for comic readership, which as a comic book nerd, I was going, yeah, I know that.
Yeah. As I said, right down to costume designs and even importantly, costume colours, because you've got David wearing basically an anorak hood, doesn't he? But it has the colours of green, and you've got,
it's almost like a cape and cowl.
yes, absolutely, you can't see
For
his
his
face,
character.
and then of course you've got the purples that Elijah's Mr. Glass character wears. So there are all the way through, there are references to those of us who grew up on comic book movies that you got. The tragic origin story, the structure of learning about your powers and eventually putting your powers to use. It felt like a comic book movie, even though it was sold as a supernatural movie by Disney at the time.
And it's Shyamalan showing how marvelous as a storyteller he is. The opening scene of the birth of Mr. Glass is a moment of joy turned into distress. There's one line that I picked up on this time round that I'd not picked up on before, but once you've seen the film through, it's one of those lines that hits you harder when you revisit. No complications, that baby just popped straight out. Sent a horrific chill down my spine because I knew exactly why. The camera work on offer in this was Shyamalan making his mark very early. He's always been great with the position of cameras and knowing how to direct and getting like good angles and usage.
And long takes.
The early train conversation between Bruce Willis's David and another passenger on the train, that he's passing backwards and forth from behind the seats. So we only see them one at a time through the gap between the seats, while subtle clues as to the upcoming fate of the train are heard in the background, is masterful tension building in otherwise humdrum moments. Shyamalan always knows how to capture a moment for maximum effect, and the staircase sequence in this, for example, is horrifically perfect. The shattering of the cane hits harder than any slams against the stairs that Elijah has. This is cinema craft from start to finish. The smart angle in the story being that it has us care and sympathise with Sam Jackson's Elijah, aka Mr. Glass. Because whilst you look on the surface and go, this is the origin story for Bruce Willis's David character, this isn't. This is the origin story for Mr. Glass. We get extensive background to his life, as opposed to barely any backstory to Willis's character. Willis's David is the lead to bring us into the story, but Jackson's Glass is the real story that's being told here. And having him play an almost Professor X kind of character seeking out people with abilities makes us, as comic book nerds, think that he's the person that we're rooting for to put together this super team. This is great storytelling.
Yeah, I love it. Why does it make me cry? There is one section, and it's the relationship between the son and Bruce Willis. You've seen him work out, and he's putting weights on, and the kid starts to cry, and it hits me in the chest every single time. I don't know what it is about the power of that scene, why it affects me as much as it did, but literally, I shed a tear. I think it's the relationship between father and son, the knowing secret that they both have, the potential for the realization of both characters, and in the way that M. Night Shyamalan plays it, it's all underplayed. It feels very real. And I guess as a comic book fan, you know, we were always hoping for those realistic moments, the same kind of scenes that happened in Superman the movie, or the quieter moments for me, which hit me every single time. But this film did. There was a moment in it where it quickly became one of my favorite films of all time. However, why it's not is film works perfectly. It builds to a twist, which if you've seen the film, you understand, and he's kind of hinted at it. And then it's let down in the very, very final frames of the film with a bit of cheap exposition, which destroys the effect of the film. All this super realism that he's gone for. And it's some title cards on the screen, which were so unnecessary and just cheapens the film for me that I almost find it unforgivable. In fact, it is unforgivable because it's unnecessary, especially with what we've come to know about the characters.
It felt like the kind of freeze frame title cards that come up at the end of Hallmark TV weekly films.
Just why
it's so
did he
corny.
put that in?
That felt completely un-Shyamalan.
Yeah.
He's not done it in any of his other films, and I think that it's possibly a studio push to, people will want resolution, because it didn't need those cards to tell you what happened next.
Yeah.
It was great just ending with the line, "They called me Mr. Glass."
Yes.
That's the ending.
Yeah. Bang, out.
That's all that it needed. So this feels like a studio interference moment, because the rest of the film is perfect. I mean, he's even signposts so much. The first comic book that Elijah is bought while his mother hands it to him. She says, I hear this one has a surprise ending. Oh, signpost what's to come, you... Oh... Elijah as a character speaks to the comic book nerd in all of us. It's impossible not to be drawn into his broken character.
And he talks about comics as an art form.
Yeah.
All the way through. He talks about the need for legendary characters.
As with Sixth Sense, this is a media literate tale that is slightly flawed if you scrutinize it in detail, but because it riffs on conventions of the genre that it inhabits, it works perfectly. And this is what Shyamalan always does well. He riffs on ideas and concepts in interesting ways. I'm with you. I think this is Shyamalan's best work.
Yes. It's brutally emotional. That's why it works for me.
I think The Village is a better story complete, and it's got less holes. It's a more well-structured tale, but it's not as good a film. This, because it is media literate, because it knows what it is, but because it's riffing on ideas that we already know, aside from those freeze frames at the end, this is a perfect film.
So Bruce Willis was quoted as hoping for an Unbreakable trilogy. The film underperformed at the box office. Shyamalan and Samuel L. Jackson said there'd been some discussions for sequels when the film was being made, but it mostly died due to the disappointment in its numbers. Jackson even has said he'd be interested in a sequel, but Shyamalan was non-committal. And at this point, really, in Shyamalan's career, that his star as this sort of wunderkind film director kind of started to wane. And he went back to making low-budget, almost BC movie-type movies. And along comes Split.
After Unbreakable, with films such as Signs, that's when the traditional Shyamalan twist started to grate on people. The Village, which got a lackluster reception from critics and the public, I think it's actually a strong story. I just don't think it works overall. And then he got swallowed into Hollywood with The Last Airbender, which the less talked about, the better.
Same with Lady in the Water. Yikes.
But it was when he started to more or less self-finance his own projects that he gained his momentum. Now, Split, I saw this at a special exclusive advanced screening down in London.
I remember that.
Months before it came out, which was presented by Shyamalan himself. And he talked at that point about how getting the opportunity to make films using his own financing without studio interference and control allowed him to finally tell the tales that he wanted to tell. And that's when he decided to return to this world of potential superheroes and supervillains and tell a new story in there. And Split came out, and all the way through watching that, we didn't know it was going to be tying into Unbreakable until you get to that mid-credit sting when David is sat there and you suddenly go, oh, this is the long-awaited sequel that we've always been hoping for. And I remember all of us in that screening, because no one had seen this film at that point. All of us sat bolt upright in the seats, and I literally yelled an expletive, much to the amusement of the people who were with me at the time, who just gasped. I went straight for the F-bomb. And having to sit on that surprise for 3 months before it came on general release, not being able to discuss it with anyone. Oh boy, that was the hardest thing ever, because Split was a great film in and of itself. Ignore the connections to Unbreakable, take that away from it, it's still a great film. James McAvoy delivers multiple fantastic performances in a disturbing tale of kidnapping, abduction, and murder. Yeah,
I think this is a film we can talk about as a deep dive on its own, because it is so strong. Interestingly enough, Shyamalan had stated that the orange-suited villain portrayed by Chance Kelly in Unbreakable was initially going to be the character, the Horde, that James McAvoy went on to play. The original character, Kevin Wendell Crumb, would be fully realized in Split. So Split was a success. It was low budget, as we said, fantastic performances across. It led us into the third installment of what turned out to be the Unbreakable trilogy. Now, I have huge reservations about this, because I, probably like you, was overjoyed that Glass got made. It had the return of Bruce Willis as David Dunn, Samuel L. Jackson as Mr. Glass, Anna Taylor-Joy, and James McAvoy returning as the Horde. This film should have been awesome. And for certainly the first act, most of the second act, it is. And then I was so broken by it. I'm not unbreakable, and this film proved it. It broke me, this film, because it let down everything I was looking forward to, and felt cheap and felt insincere to everything that had been set up. Yes, I know it led on to this bigger idea, but I think the treatment of especially Bruce Willis's David Dunn character was shoddy.
I mean, the first act is David Dunn, now completely as this overseer vigilante, tracking down the Horde. That's the sequel to Unbreakable that we expected.
Yes.
In the first place. And then it flips to the mental institution where Sarah Paulson's character comes into it and basically gives the counterpoint to each of them that these aren't abilities that they have. They are not superpowers. This is their psychoses, and gives some convincing arguments for every single one of them as she's trying to break them out of their psychoses and get them back into normal life. And it gives a whole different reflection on what you've already seen and what you believe you've seen. And then the final act, Mr. Glass engineers some fight that was going to come up, then promising that it's going to be the big epic fight over at these towers that have been built, and then it just becomes something completely different.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of them that Shyamalan thought he could defy expectations of the genre that it's inhabiting in a clever and creative way, but unfortunately he overdid going against what the conventions are. And instead of making us go, oh, that was a unique twist, it made us go, no, you've disappointed us now. You've not delivered on any promises. You need to at least deliver on some of the promises if you're going to completely go against what the expectations are. With this, despite the fantastic performances throughout, and James McAvoy here, he goes through one scene about 15 different performances. He's on fire. Bruce Willis, this is the latter years of Bruce Willis when he was generally doing straight to DVD rubbish, but he showed exactly what the screen presence he was in this film. Anya Taylor-Joy reprises her role and gets some resolution to her character in a beautiful moment between her and Kevin. Sarah Paulson, always great. Samuel L. Jackson, always great. Everyone's delivering except for Shyamalan in the writing.
I totally agree.
I can't flaw any of the direction. It's all in the writing and it's all in that final act. I get the feeling that Shyamalan, because Shyamalan said back in 2000 that he never intended to make any further films. And over the years, he grew more accustomed to the idea of doing them and then got to make Split. But I don't think he ever had an end game in mind, and it shows.
Yeah, it's for somebody who was renowned for their endings. This was just so weak.
It was flat.
And the characters didn't deserve their outcome. I know he hadn't got a big budget to do something huge.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this was 20 million.
But do something with the characters, because we want to spend time with their characters.
I'd have been happy just having the analysis in the psychiatrist labs and then sending them out into the real world as hopefully reformed people. That would have been a better ending.
Yes. It's to the point where this film doesn't really exist for me. You know, I cross it off the list. I will stick with Unbreakable and I will stick with Split. But for me, Glass is a terrible ending, which is almost right for the first half of the film, but lets the entire thing down. But Unbreakable is a fantastic film. The start, really, of our interest in superhero movies. You have to dig a little bit deep to realize it's a superhero movie. For us fans, all the tricks of the trade are in there, and the subtle nods and the subtle recognition that comics are a form of storytelling that talk about legends and a bigger world and right and wrong, and hits me on an emotional level that I still can't exactly tell you why, but it gets me every single time. If you want to watch Unbreakable, Andy, where can you find it?
Unbreakable and Glass are both on Disney+. Split, you have to go searching elsewhere. I think it's currently on Prime, and it's also on Sky Movies. I do recommend definitely watch Unbreakable if you've never seen it before, and definitely give Split a watch.
We'll be back next week with another deep dive. And now it's time for this week's reviews.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
Andy, what do we got?
So let's start with Wake Up, Dead Man.
To understand this case, you need to look at the myth that's being constructed. A man gives a sermon. He then, in plain sight of everyone, walks into a sealed concrete box. And 30 seconds later, that man is lying dead. A classic, impossible crime.
The third of Rian Johnson's Benoit Blanc mysteries has arrived. Well, at cinemas in a limited run at least. This time, the mystery is set in a small community where a controversial priest who had alienated much of the community aside from a handful of devotees dies in a locked room scenario, with the finger of suspicion being pointed primarily at the younger priest who was appointed to assist him in his community. Enter Benoit Blanc, played once again by Daniel Craig, who finds the puzzle pieces for this mystery, which are blurred by faith and religion. Most interesting indeed. One of the things that struck me early on with this entry was how effectively utilised light and shadow was to convey depth to a scene, mainly whenever discussions are had within the church itself. Moments such as Blanc in darkness as he's confused by elements of the puzzle, but then the sunlight beams through the stained glass as a spark of intuition hits. It's a revelatory moment for the detective. This kind of slick cinematography and directorial decisions enhance the film greatly. But thankfully, even without that visual flair, this would easily have still been my second favourite of the Knives Out films to date, with potential to capture the top spot once I come to revisit it. The mystery woven through this entry feels stronger than the previous films, but quite obvious once the reveals are made. In addition, the choice to have Blanc absent for the whole first act as we get the backstory leading up to his death in detail, with Josh O'Connor's Reverend Duplantis being our eyes to this community, allowed us to get to know the players more before Blanc starts unravelling the clues. It reminded me somewhat of how on TV Johnson's Poker Face series tends to spend half the episode without Charlie being involved to let us get to know the background of the characters before Charlie comes along to solve the mystery. Only with Wake Up Dead Man, we don't even know who the killer is this time. And if anything, our insight into all the characters clouds our own vision as to the events that transpire. This is a film that kept me guessing throughout, and it's aided once again by a superb cast who all get moments to shine and never step on each other's toes. Josh Brolin as Monsignor Wicks is by design a scene stealer, and so definitely dominates the screen, but this is for the benefit of the tale, and allows us to hate the character as we should. Jeffrey Wright, Kerry Washington, Jeremy Renner, Mila Kunis, Kaylee Spaney, Andrew Scott and Thomas Hayden Church all inhabit their roles, and none of them feel superfluous to the events. But it's safe to say that Daniel Craig and Josh O'Connor are the standouts on screen. A film that is acted this well and so wonderfully written, whilst being directed and shot to look as good as it does, deserves the big screen and should have had a longer run at cinemas. However, if you don't get a chance to catch it on the silver screen, rest assured that the tale itself will make it well worth seeing on the streaming service in a couple of weeks.
That was a great review, and I know how hard it is to do a review and not give anything at all away. So congratulations.
Murder mysteries are always a nightmare because you have to tread carefully.
It's what you don't say sometimes as well that gives stuff away.
Because the joy with this in particular is that it kept me off guard throughout. I kept second guessing myself as to what I thought the outcome was going to be.
Now, there's a reason that I didn't come along and see it this week, is because I promised that I will watch it as part of our Christmas viewing with the family, because the family are really looking forward to seeing it. And I didn't think it would be fair to come in already knowing what the outcome was going to be. And I think there's that thing about whodunits is you kind of look to each other to go, who do you think it is? Even if you're not verbalizing that, and the more you get involved and you're trying to figure it out, there's something about that communal. So I've held back from seeing it, but I'm desperate to see it. I've always been a fan of Rian Johnson. There's nowhere, not even Star Wars, where he's ever let me down. So I'm really looking forward to it. And the other film you're going to talk about is something I am really intrigued about, and that is Pillion.
How do you get a man like that?
I have an aptitude for devotion. I'll taste your shopping list.
And where's all the blood flow? You're too tight.
Yeah, bye then.
Based on the 2020 novel Box Hill by Adam Mars Jones, Pillion sees Harry Melling as a timid gay man named Colin who struggles to find love. However, one night he slipped a note by a mesmerisingly handsome biker named Ray, played by Alexander Skarsgård, to meet up on Christmas Day in a high street alley. Doing so, Colin finds Ray to be quite silent and seemingly emotionally cold as the pair hook up. And for months afterwards, Ray never gets back in touch until eventually Colin receives an invite to Ray's home, where he's coerced into a strict BDSM relationship, with Colin being the sub to Ray's dom. Colin accepts his part in this relationship and becomes part of the biker gang, which is populated by other subs and doms, finally discovering who he is in a relationship, whilst under the surface wanting something more. Pillion is starkly upfront about its subject matter, and comparisons could be drawn between this and films such as Secretary, which also looked at sub and dom culture in a non-judgmental manner. This is about finding yourself within a relationship and accepting your role within, whilst defining your own boundaries, with Colin growing over the film to someone who knows exactly who he is and what he wants. Harry Melling delivers a superb underdog performance, with occasional moments of breakout grasps for emotional connection that slam against the cold presence of Skarsgård as Ray. However, don't let that make you think that Ray is emotionless. As the film progresses, there are small slivers of compassion and love that are glimpsed, with one final act shot capturing a haunting look at Ray trying to stick to his role but struggling to stay cold that sticks with you long after the film ends. This is beautifully shot. The scenes on the pillion of the bike as we focus on Colin holding onto Ray with love, lost in a world of bliss as the night passes at speed behind them, are simply beautiful. First-time director Harry Lighton confidently approaches the subject matter and uses an eye for detail and beauty to convey a complex film about human emotions. It's darkly funny at times, but beautifully engaging throughout. This is a sharp and emotionally intelligent portrayal of self-discovery and desire.
This sort of storyline has been done many, many times. In fact, there's almost a subculture of subs and doms movies. But I'm really intrigued. You know what? Just on an aside from your review, Harry Melling is the grandson of Patrick Troughton. Don't you think he would make a great Doctor?
Oh, yeah, he would. He's marvellous.
Yep. And finally, I know you've got something else that you want to just throw in.
Yes, landed on streaming on Amazon Prime last week, and that's She Rides Shotgun.
What the hell are you doing?
We have to go right now.
Are you okay? What happened? Huh? Polly? Polly, talk to me!
Mommy. Mommy. Mommy! Mommy's gone! Mommy! You said everything was good!
Yeah, I know. I lied. Nothing's good.
We have to go!
What'd you do? Polly!
Dr. Stone, we have to go!
What'd you do?
Please don't make me tell you why, please! Just go, grab your things!
What did you do?
Newly released from prison and marked for death by unrelenting enemies, Nate must now protect his estranged 11-year-old daughter Polly at all costs. With hardly any resources and no one to trust, Nate and Polly forge a bond under fire as he shows her how to fight and survive, and she teaches him the true meaning of unconditional love. Taron Egerton is consistently stunning from project to project. After breaking out onto the screen with films such as Kingsman, and then delivering great turns in Rocketman, Eddie the Eagle and Tetris, and even in the weaker of films, Robin Hood and Carry On, he still lends something strong to it. Here, though, he really delivers a character that is desperately trying to reconcile with his daughter whilst running from the sins of his past that have caught up with him and those close to him. But it's in the part of Polly, his daughter, which the film holds the most strength. And young star Anna Sophia Herger is astounding. There's pure emotion charging through the film with her front and centre to it all. And the final shot of this film is one that sticks with you, with echoes of the closing credits smile masking inner turmoil seen in films such as Pearl. And it hits right to the core. This is a gem of a streaming release that just dropped unceremoniously onto the services, and I encourage everyone to head over to Prime and check it out.
Those are the films that are out this week. What's coming up over the next week?
So at cinemas, The Doors When You're Strange, I'm
fancy
interested to see. Five Nights at Freddy's 2
Not bothered.
is probably going to be the one that brings in the most of the crowds. Prime Minister is on a limited release. A Christmas Carol, yes, a new version of Christmas Carol, because there's not enough with the 75
Needs more
versions
Muppets
out there. Eternity, Magazine Dreams is on a very limited cinema release, and Kill Bill, The Whole Bloody Affair,
Yep.
which apparently was ripped off from another writer's work, and
Let it
that
go,
other writer
Andy,
should-
let it
should
go.
sue Over on Now TV and Sky, Tinseltown, An Alpine Holiday. Oh, it's all festive, isn't it? And just when you thought you got a chance to something not
saccharine.
festive that could be good, we got Alto Nights, which isn't good. Over on Netflix, however, Jay Kelly lands there this week. It's had a limited run at the cinemas. It lands onto the service this week. Talamasca, which is the spin-off TV series to the Interview with the Vampire series. But my eyes are firmly placed on Troll 2 that lands on Netflix. Troll was so much
It was
fun
so
in
good.
a Godzilla kind. It's basically Godzilla of Norway. Troll 2 looks like it's Godzilla versus Kong, but the Norway edition.
I'm there for that. I like the first one.
Whilst over on Amazon, Oh What Fun, which sees Michelle Pfeiffer in some Christmas junk. Finally, yeah, it is festive, and I am very negative about festive things, but there's no way I'm getting negative about Apple TV giving us the first snow of Fraggle Rock. Yes, the Fraggles have a new festive special, and boy, I'm watching that.
And that's us done for this week, folks. But before we go, our neat things. Andy, what's your neat thing for this week?
I've mentioned before how sometimes I have to find things to do, particularly at this time of year when there's stuff like I'm a Celebrity taking up the TV for far too many hours each week, and you've got Strictly Come Dancing, which every episode seems to be about 14 hours long in my eyes. And I need things to get me to do. While the wife's watching her rubbish, I treated myself recently, and I treated myself to a PlayStation Portal handheld device.
Okay.
I liked the idea of the Portal when it first came out, but it seemed a bit pointless because initially, in order to play games on it, it had to link to your PlayStation 5 and it would stream from your PlayStation 5. So your PlayStation 5 will be powered on and it streams directly into it. And that's all well and good, but I can do that with my phone if I wanted to. And I can do that with my tablet if I wanted to. Now they've added in one of the recent updates, the ability to stream directly from the online store. And there's up to 2,500 games. So if you've bought something that is available to stream play, you can stream it directly from the store. So now it's a genuine portable device. All that happens now is, particularly on a Sundays, as most of these programs get caught up with by the wife, I lay back on the other couch, put my headphones in, fire up my Portal, and continue playing any of my games that I've purchased or the ones that are on PlayStation Premium. The quality of the device is so good. It looks clunky, but it feels quite light. It's got all the feedback mechanisms of the PlayStation 5's controller anyway. The screen is crystal clear, beautiful. The sound quality is fantastic. This is a really good device for less than £200. It's getting so much use. Rather than switching on the PlayStation 5, I'll just be relaxed because I can just chill out and just have it on my lap, or can lie down, or I can play my PlayStation games without having to be sat facing the TV. It's great. PlayStation Portal, even at the usual £199, I think that this is a bargain of a handheld controller. The only drawback being, in order to do the stream play without it going through a console, you need to have a PlayStation Premium account, not the standard PlayStation Plus account, but the premium one, which is £100 a year. But I pay for that anyway. This was a guaranteed purchase for me as soon as they made it, that you didn't need to link it to the console. PlayStation Portal is a neat thing.
I said I'm actually going to go with one. I'm going to leave one for next week. I'm not a great binger, but I am a big fan of Apple TV, and I have thoroughly enjoyed, so much so that I've watched the entire series in just over a week, of Stick, which stars Owen Wilson. Those kind of throwaway critics have described it as the golf equivalent of Ted Lasso, and it isn't. It's its own thing. I think it's kind of a little bit lazy, but I did enjoy it, and you don't have to be a fan of golf. As with Ted Lasso, you didn't have to be a fan of football to get it. It's the story of Bryce Carhill, who was headed for golf greatness, when he has a meltdown that derails his career, and he's struggling to stay afloat. He's on the verge of a divorce, and it looks like his life's going nowhere. He then meets a gifted teenager, a phenomenon, a kid called Santi, who has the highest potential to be an amazing golfer, and also the opportunity that Owen Wilson's character can redeem himself. It's a lot of fun. It's very, very easygoing. Owen Wilson has this great screen charm. If you dig Owen Wilson, then this is him at his most Owen Wilson-y. And I didn't mind that. Those are the reasons that I watch Owen Wilson's movies, is because I like what he does with these sort of laid back characters, but he does get to do some quite intense acting. So there's very emotional parts, and just thoroughly enjoyed it in a way that I didn't think I would. And I think it's the class that Apple TV deliver. They're always of some kind of a high standard with very recognizable stars. But I just liked the redemption quality of somebody coming back from the brink, no matter how old you are. And that really stuck. So sticks for me. It's well worth your time. 10 episodes, just over half an hour each. They'll pass by very quickly. And you know what? You'll thank me. Doesn't make me want to play golf, though.
The extended casting Stick. Mark Moron is fantastic as Mitz. Timothy Oliphant is most devilishly wonderful as the rival. Judy Greer is great as Price's
We love
ex-wife.
Judy Greer.
It's just a stacked cast in a charming sports comedy.
Yeah, it does all the cliches, but it also has some surprises in as well. Right, folks, that's us done for this week. We'll be back with another Film File next week. If you haven't done so, leave a review, whichever podcast platform you're on. If you haven't subscribed to the show. Tell all your friends. Tell the person standing next to you on the golf range. Subscribe to the Film File. And we'll see you next week. Hopefully, my friend, I shall get to see you next week with a bit of luck.
Yes, I mean, the only film coming out of the cinemas that I'll probably run is Five Nights at Freddy's 2. I'm not sure if you're interested in that one.
You know what? Strangely enough, I don't think I am. But don't worry, Andy. It's all right to be afraid, because this part won't be like a comic book. Real life doesn't fit into little boxes that were drawn for it.